This split corresponds to the doubling of the shadow often met with in dreams, where the two halves appear as different or even as antagonistic figures. This happens when the conscious ego personality does not contain all the contents and components that it could contain. Part of the personality then remains split off and mixes with the normally unconscious shadow, the two together forming a double and often antagonistic personality. If we apply this experience from the domain of practical psychology to the mythological material under discussion, we find that God's monstrous antagonistic produces a double because the God image is incomplete and does not contain everything it logically ought to contain. Whereas Leviathan is a fish-like creature, primitive and cold-blooded, dwelling in the depths of the ocean, Behemoth is a warm-blooded quadruped, presumably something like a bull, who roams the mountains, at least in later tradition. Hence he is related to Leviathan as a higher, superior creature to a lower, inferior one, rather like the winged and the wingless dragon in alchemy. All winged beings are volatile, i.e. vapours and gases, in other words, pneuma. Just as in Augustine, Christ the fish is drawn from the deep, so in 2nd Esdras 13:2ff, the man came out of the sea like a wind. His appearance was heralded by an eagle and a lion, theriomorphic symbols, which greatly affrighted the prophet in the same way that Behemoth inspired chiefly terror in Job. The fish drawn from the deep has a secret connection with Leviathan. He is the bait with which Leviathan is lured and caught. This fish is probably a duplication of the great fish, and stands for its pneumatic aspect. It is evident that Leviathan has such an aspect, because he, like the ichthys, is Eucharistic food. That this doubling represents an act of conscious realization is clear from Job 26:12, where we are told that Yahweh smote Rahab by his understanding. Rahab, the sea monster, is cousin german to Tiamat, whom Marduk split asunder by filling her up with Imhulu, the north wind. The word tibuna comes from bin, to separate, split, part asunder, in other words, to discriminate, which is the essence of conscious realization. In this sense, Leviathan and Behemoth represent stages in the development of consciousness, whereby they become assimilated and humanized. The fish changes via the warm-blooded quadruped into a human being, and insofar as the Messiah became in Christianity the second person of the Trinity, the human figure split off from the fish hints at God's incarnation. What was previously missing in the God image, therefore, was the human element.